calling the Skin Deep Rapid Fire. And if you had one procedure you'll never remove, what would that be?
Botox.
Easy answer. That was quick.
I love Botox. It's amazing every time. And I love giving people the best Botox they've ever had. These are medical procedures. These are drugs going into the body. This is not a beauty treatment. This is not the same as getting your hair or your nails done. There needs to be a higher level of standards that are met. And I think accreditation, it literally holds that bar.
Biggest aesthetic myth.
Ooh, there's so many that one and done. That's not a thing. It's a journey. It's consistency. Wow. And it's going to be a pinch of everything. You need a multimodal treatment plan.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Cam Hemphill here, your host for the Medical Millionaire Podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in. My goal is to give incredible value and insight for practice owners. So if you're looking to scale your practice, you're looking to elevate, take your practice to the next level, or even thinking about getting into this wonderful world of aesthetics, every single one of these episodes that we create, they're 100% designed for you and to help get to the next level. I have an incredible guest on today. I have Jennifer Hartley on. She's the founder of Skin Synthesis. She has an incredible background, incredible practice, and her and I were talking offline, and she just has an incredible story and journey. And so she's had a lot of success in aesthetics, and it makes sense to hear what she has to say. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cameron. Thanks so much for having me today.
You are so welcome. I just got back from Aesthetic Next, and I feel like I've been working all weekend recording this on a Monday. And, you know, I really enjoyed the conversation that you and I had offline and to really tee up a great interview here. I know you spent a lot of time in the ICU before launching your aesthetics practice, and I do hear quite a bit where providers spend a lot of time in the hospital. ICU could be one avenue or other avenues, but talk to us about that experience and then kind of what put you into a position to say, you know what, I'm going to go open up my aesthetics practice and kind of how that evolved.
Yeah. Well, gosh, I started in critical care in 2005. Right out of the gate as a nurse. And I worked in the ICUs as a bedside nurse for 5 or 6 years before going back to school. I went to Vanderbilt and became an acute care nurse practitioner, specializing within their critical care track, and then started as an NP in the ICU after I graduated. So fast forward, I spent almost 18 years in critical care. And really the name of the game there, you're helping people on some of the worst days of their lives. Some sort of catastrophe or disaster has happened where people have landed themselves in a situation where they literally are facing life and death. And you get to come alongside those people and help them on the journey. So over the years, while I have seen some medical miracles and some amazing great saves and got to be a part of incredible teams, I've also seen a lot of hard stuff where you're a part of some of the last moments of people's lives, guiding those family members to say goodbye. And while it's super meaningful work, it's also just really challenging. And over the years, critical care and how it's being utilized now across the nation and definitely on the West Coast really I reached a place where I was wondering what I was really doing anymore. I personally just don't want to be putting 90-year-olds on life support. And as a nurse practitioner, that's often what we're doing, leading those codes where the hands that are putting in invasive lines and tubes. So I started searching for how could I actually be on the other side rather than helping people have good deaths? How can I help people live well and to put more life into their life? And how can I come alongside them and be a part of a journey that's really about living well and improving quality of life?
Well said. And I appreciate the background there. So really when I look into it, it sounds like from life support to life enhancement.
Yeah.
What is it like going to work today?
You know what? It's amazing. You look at your schedule and you see all these amazing people who are coming in, who are doing outstanding things in life. And I feel like since I've worked in aesthetics, my world has only gotten larger and you get to learn new things about all sorts of different fields and different professions. And what's interesting is how I lead some of those consultations is not that far away from how I had conversations about death and dying in the ICU. Often we're asking questions like, what are you hoping for? What are you afraid of? What do you want the outcome to be? And that sort of thing. And so you're still teasing out really the essence of people where they're at in that journey.
Was it, so at one point you were in the ICU while you were launching your practice, right?
I was.
Okay. So there's that dual overlap. All right. What did that look like when when you're managing, and I hear this quite a bit, right? Where you have these two roles, entrepreneur wants to launch her own practice, his own practice, but you still are under the umbrella of your current job. And it makes sense, right? There's safety there. There's insurance there. There's income there, right? And what did that look like in the early days? And then, you were ICU by day, med spa builder by night, if you will. How did that impact your grit? When did you make the full migration to aesthetics? Talk to us through that.
Sure. Well, it has been a grind for sure. So I started in aesthetics in 2019, 6 months after I opened my new small business where I was the solo employee, the pandemic hit. And at that time, not only was I working full time in the ICU, the COVID ICUs, but I was also the medical director of nurse practitioners in our hospital system, which incorporated 3 different ICUs. So I was building a med spa, learning aesthetics, learning business, working full time in the ICU and leading my team through a pandemic where we were intubating COVID patients in 3 different hospitals. So it was a grind for sure to figure out how to juggle all of that. I think building your business through that time, through those COVID days, was a blessing and a curse. Hard to launch a business, not normal times whatsoever, but people were really interested in self-improvement, in skincare. The nurses really fueled my business. During that time, I felt like if you were working in the ICU, it's almost like you had a scarlet letter just blazed into your chest. So many people didn't want to see us. And so it was healthcare people who really helped launch my business because I was one of the few safe places. They trusted me. I know where they had been. A lot of us worked in the ICU together. So that was tremendously helpful at launch. But also I'm fortunate because during that time in 2020, there was loads of online free education. And so I took advantage of all of that. So I can relate to people who are trying to do it all and are juggling. So all sorts of balls in the air. I've been there. The hustle is real. I mean, you are working early mornings, late nights, weekends. You have to be all in. And what it requires, it takes everything you have.
Yeah, it's definitely not a get rich quick type of opportunity. I think like through the social media lens, sometimes it feels that way. And, for anybody that's tuning into the show today in this particular episode, it does take a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of grit and a ton of discipline. Right. And it's just, it's not easy. Entrepreneurship's not for everybody. There's an interesting stat out there. % of med spas are owned either by NPs, PAs, RNs, and, but very few have 2 decades of ICU level experience into aesthetics like you do, which, you probably had a ton of relationships there, right? So that was probably really, really helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful. And I was gainfully employed during the pandemic when things were a little bit slower and things were shut down for a while. But with that full-time job, that security, what I ultimately was doing was saving a big nest egg so that I could eventually take that full launch. And then I was also using my stable income to pay for private trainings, for conferences. I mean, the amount of money as you're starting within aesthetics that you need to invest in yourself is also pretty wild. Those numbers are much larger than you think. It's not thousands of dollars, it's tens of thousands of dollars. And over the years, I think I've spent probably close to $200,000 on education, conferences, private trainings, opportunities, books, journals. You need it all. If you want to be the best and you truly want to be excellent, you're going to need a lot of mentors, a lot of training, a lot of coaching.
I love that you brought that up. I think, even in general, let's just generalize it. People go to school, they pay a tremendous amount of cash to go to college. I've personally learned 10x post-college than during college. And invested way more money post-college than during college. So it doesn't stop there. And, I completely admire somebody that continues to invest in themselves, tech, conferences, networking, legal stuff. There's so much going on. The industry is moving so fast. There's so much to learn. Right. So how do you, because some people are afraid to invest. Well, I'm afraid to go to that conference because it costs so much money and I have to, leave and the practice isn't seeing patients or whatever. How do you go through that as an entrepreneur? How did you recognize that was important? Was that built inside you or was it from advice?
Gosh, good question. I think it makes sense to me just from an academic standpoint. In critical care, you need tons of education as well. So it was very normal from my background to realize if you're going to start in something new, you need to pour, what is it? 10,000 million hours or that equation of how many hours to do something new within a specialty. It's a large amount. So I knew that innately. And then what's crazy about aesthetics is just how fast it moves. There's new products coming to market all the time, whether it's skincare, different technology and device, different injectables. And whether or not you're going to have all of those things or not, it's still good to have some basic knowledge because patients may ask, and you want to be that trusted resource. Should they do a procedure that you don't have in your office, yes or no, you first just need to be proficient within it. And so I think I always knew that you want to be on the top of your game, that you really want to be confident. And ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're helping people on their confidence journey, and we are selling, distributing confidence. So you need to be confident. What makes me confident is education.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think there's so many people that fall short of that. For a while there was, the conferences were extremely busy. They tapered off. I feel like they're rallying back. Like I said earlier, I was just at the Aesthetic Next conference in Dallas. The attendance was incredible. I did a couple speaking arrangements there, and they went very, very well. The audience was, I feel like you guys, you're constantly seeking innovation, continuous education, what has happened in the industry. So, just a quick call out here for any provider or practice owner that has started to pull away from conferences. I would encourage you to continue to dive back in. There's a lot that's taken place. There's some new incredible speakers, and there's new data points coming out. Patient acquisition costs, patient lifetime value, what's happened in the private equity world, what's happening in the treatments world, what's happened on the marketing side, the artificial intelligence movement. And so it hasn't really slowed down. The industry is going to continue to grow. In fact, AmSpa forecasts that it's going to grow, just under 20% year over year. And there's some other data points that back that up too. So I admire that you do that. And I do see quite a bit of providers and practice owners that continuously go to these conferences, and the friendships and the bond and the community that you build around that is unmatched.
Yeah, the networking is incredible. That old saying, your net value is your network. Mm-hmm. I really believe in that. And so that's one thing. Not only are you educating yourself at these continuing conferences, different cadaver workshops, labs, all the things that you can go to, but you're also networking with other people across the country. What's working in your area? You learn from your peers. It's so nice to meet people and to have someone in your back pocket that is going through some of the same things as you are. Because I think that's the other reality that you hear entrepreneurs talk about, but the reality is so much heavier, is just how lonely it can be. And unless you're an entrepreneur, I think some of that loneliness is not as well understood as people tell us that, oh, I know, Jenny, you're so busy, or this, that, the other. But I think other entrepreneurs understand other entrepreneurs better than anyone else. Nothing really prepares you for that full loneliness, because when you're all in on your business, you're sacrificing a lot of things: the weddings, the family events, the birthday parties, the vacations, the girls' trips, because you're doubling down, you're hustling, you're going to conferences instead of going to the party, etc. And that grind is something. And so to network with other entrepreneurs across the nation has been tremendously helpful to me.
Yeah, there's a ton of sacrifice that goes into it. And to your point, you have to say no a lot. Mm-hmm. There's, events that are taking place all outside.
Boundaries are essential.
They're essential. And you have to know, you have to control your own path and your own destiny, and make sure that if this is truly what you want to do. So for the listeners out there, if you truly want to be a medical aesthetics powerhouse, right? You want to grow something tangible. You want to build an asset. You want to hire providers. You want to deliver a great patient experience. You want to have a great process. You want to have a great reputation. You want to deliver ultimate transformation results, right? It's not easy, and you have to be all in, right? This isn't let's dabble it on the weekends and have Botox parties, right? So that brings up to my next point, is what is the philosophy behind skin synthesis? What does that look like to you?
Yeah. Well, my clinic here, we're very much medical, but we also would say that we're relationship based. So we love to come alongside our patients and to be part of their long-term journey. The work that we do, of course, is focusing on natural results and natural enhancements, getting patients into comprehensive treatment plans that really incorporate a variety of the services that we have, from facials to microneedling to lasers to all the injectables. And we love to see our patients more frequently. And so what that looks like, you really get to know people. You know what's happening on their journey. You can see the cause and effect of the treatments that we're doing. And you can really dial in things strategically that are going to enhance their results. That's what we love to do.
What would you say is the most humbling moment you've had since you've gone full time?
Oh, that is a good question. The most humbling moment. I think one of my favorite moments that was also just really impactful. A few years ago, I was working with a woman who decided she wanted to go on a more invasive injectable journey. We had done things like Botox and skincare, and she has a child who is in the process of transitioning, and she was also in the process of a divorce. And so she had thought about it for a while, decided, I'm going to do it. We're going to do facial balancing. So she came in, and I think we did 5 or 6 syringes of filler. She looked incredible. She was in her early phase, just restored her cheeks, her temples, reduced those nasolabial fold, the whole thing. At the end, when I showed her the result and she looked in the mirror, she started crying. And she said, Jenny, as I look at myself, I just feel like I'm falling in love with myself. And that moment was so impactful, and it was so much bigger than anything I could have anticipated in a syringe. You know, after working in the ICU, for example, for so many years, I've been a part of incredible saves. This just hit totally different. To see someone feel like they were restored and their confidence was back, I can't even really put that experience into words that do it justice. It was incredibly powerful. We both were basically crying. In the days that followed, she was texting, I've decided to go on Hinge. I think I'm going to start dating again. She sent texts, her child who is in the midst of, navigating a transition, and what is that going to look like, was also just so positively impacted by his mom leading and saying, you know what, I want to change something about my body, and this is what it's done for me. And it's been incredible. So that journey was so humbling and rewarding. That's what it's about. That's the why right there. That's why you grind and you're willing to work 20 hours a day or whatever it is on any given week.
That's the why. All right. That's what gets you out of the bed every single day and running back to the practice. I love it. And that's what it's all about. I mean, at the end of the day, you're providers, right? You've been a provider. I mean, you're over 20 years in the industry, not aesthetics per se, but, in helping patients, right? Healthcare in general. Right. And so look, on one side of it, and I won't go back too far on the ICU days, but how do you compare somebody at their end? Because I know that you've experienced a ton of that.
Yep.
And what that is like, and maybe you're the last one they see. I mean, I'm sure there's wild conversations you have. And then also, the opposite of that is injecting life and fuel and confidence into it's almost like you've rebirthed them.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is really humbling. When you're a part of someone's last moments and you're helping that family say goodbye, a lot of people don't know what to do. If you're losing a loved one in the ICU, it's just such a roller coaster of emotions. And those final moments, you're almost just in shock as you see them. Many people are. And so one of the things I used to love to do was to help people say goodbye and to work with legacy planning. So if that person was not on life support, you can actually help them write notes to their family members that they can maybe open on when the daughter gets married or when the grandkid graduates from college. Like, the idea is the legacy planning. You leave pieces of yourself behind for your loved ones. That was one of my favorite things to do, or just to help people say goodbye and to know what does that look like, asking some people to step out so they can have a moment of privacy. It's a variety of things. Now, on this side of living well, it's more about teasing out when someone sits in the chair. So many women, it's sad, are so self-deprecating. But when I see them, that's the view that when we look in the mirror as women, we often start listing out all the things we don't like about ourselves, right? But objectively, when I look at some of these people, I'm like, my God, you're a powerhouse. You're kicking ass in your field. You're juggling so many things, family, friends, travel, all the things that these women do. And they're gorgeous. And so to be that voice of reason and reality, to reground people, and then to intentionally pick out and pick and choose, what should we do first? What should we do next? And to see how that comes to life and how it affects their life and affects their confidence is also just so amazing. It's two completely different Jekyll and Hyde ends of the healthcare spectrum. But I think along the middle, the other thing that I have learned in terms of boundaries is just the ability that I can now tell people no, which, fast forward or rewind rather, I could never do that in the ICU. I could be a part of your goals of care discussion. But at the end of the day, if you decide, Jenny, I want you to intubate my 98-year-old mother. That is what she wants. Yes, please put in all the tubes. We're going to code her CPR in the end. I really just think she wants to be here for Christmas. My job it's my hands are going to do all of that, even though I know the odds of you leaving the ICU are like less than 0.1%. That was the job. Whereas now, if you came in and you were like, so Jenny, I was thinking some beautiful maleficent cheeks, like I really just want some glamorous lips. I'm okay with the DSLs. Let's go. I can say no. And I can teach you and educate you of why I don't think this is going to be a good idea for you. And I can tell you about our philosophies. And if we're not a match for each other, I can just say, I'm sorry, but I don't think I can meet your needs. I don't think you would be happy. I feel like the procedure you're asking that you're expressing interest in, it would just be like throwing Benjamins out the window. It's not going to be good value for you. That ability to be honest with people, I think really just restored so much of my soul after years of just grinding and kind of feeling like a cog on the wheel. And people respect that. Patients want you to be honest. They appreciate that authenticity. They often don't know what they're asking. And they want to feel like they're in a safe place with a provider who will help them and guide them along the way. And that if they ask for something that's unreasonable or not safe or not in their best interest, that we're going to be the guardrails. And then we're going to say no.
Have you had someone really come and ask for DSLs?
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I bet those conversations are interesting.
Yep. Okay. It's amazing what people say in the chair, right?
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure it's that patient provider closed door. It's like everything comes out. You're almost like the therapist in some ways. Huh?
You really are. Yeah.
So behind every thriving practice is a passionate provider owner. Mm-hmm. That's why skin synthesis came about, right? You're passionate. You wanted to help. You wanted to get into something. You wanted to help restore confidence in people's future, which I think is just absolutely incredible. And that's why I admire aesthetics. It's helped me with confidence. I know it's helped my wife with confidence. It's helped so many patients and friends and colleagues that I know. And it does put the smile on your face. It really, in some ways, I almost think it actually makes you more income. You feel confident, and when you feel confident, like things are flowing good, things are looking good, and ultimately, you're able to put yourself out there and find yourself in a position to actually retain more, meaning income, networking, whatever.
Yeah. But, well, isn't that so true? Like,
yeah.
I think there have been studies looking at that. Unfortunately, it's the ugly reality of society now. We all have the brains of goldfish, right? We're used to swiping. That instant gratification, that dopamine hit is so fast. Uh-huh. But if you go into, let's say we're at Nordstrom and you're in the shoe department, two people are standing there with shoes. Who gets the service first? Right? I think we know. Is it the person who is gorgeous, kind of, right? Like it matters, like who gets the promotion. There are subtle things within society that unfortunately, when we look good, you feel good, you're more confident, and that confidence tends to help you succeed in life. Now, do I think that's fair? Do I love that? No, I don't, but that is the world that we live in.
It is. I mean, we do need that dopamine hit and need, want, shouldn't want, need, I don't know, whatever. But yes, we do have this phone, this supercomputer that lives in our pocket. We're all guilty of going in there, scrolling, and life is beautiful there. It's kind of interesting, actually, when you really peel it back, because, behind those scenes, it's not all pretty and glam, right? But when you look at, let's look at somebody's like LinkedIn profile, Instagram profile, Facebook profile, Hinge profile, I guess we can go there. We're showcasing our best side, right? Mm-hmm. And people are attracted to that confidence, that beauty, that enhancement. And so I completely agree. Now, to peel back the layers a little bit, also every thriving practice has a great invisible tech stack. Mm-hmm. Standard operating procedures, software, support, marketing. What does that look like for your practice? It's fragmented. There's lots of different tech, lots of different overlap. You want to make sure that you're giving the best patient communication experience possible, making the provider's day easy with their calendars and schedule. What has that journey been like for you?
Yeah.
What do you have? Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, it's been a journey for sure. We've been in a couple different systems. We're currently in Zenoti, which we chose that because we can do a lot of things all within one system. Patient communication, marketing, charting. There's good reports for the business. It's not without its growing pains for sure. It takes quite a while to really get up and going in Zenoti. So that has been a journey for sure. And then we also in-house do a lot of things that are kind of bespoke. There's someone on our team who has a background in software engineering. So they have also built some things. And so that's our CRM right now. We've looked at some other options. Podium is something that we've considered. The use of AI and what companies we work with it has been something we've been really intentional and careful about up here. And living in Seattle, this is a huge tech city. A lot of people within the city work in AI and have quite a few concerns about ethics and privacy. So we've been pretty careful and are right now just doing things internally in-house since we have a software developer on our team, because our patients ask a lot of questions about where the data is sitting right now, what companies, etc. There's a lot of privacy concerns in Seattle.
Yes, I could imagine. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, because they know, right? Part of your patient base,
yes,
may work at one of these tech companies.
They do. And they're pretty intentional and have been pretty clear with us that they appreciate that we are still human on the other side of the text and that humans are still interacting with them. And because of the work that they do, of course, it's on a much bigger scale. I think we're limited right now in what we could bring on because of our unique population.
Yeah. You're an interesting demographic in that area. You know, I love AI for efficiency and productivity, maybe automated response to know someone's home. But I would agree, the patient-provider communication experience is absolutely critical.
Yeah. Especially we're a business built on relationships.
Right.
And so we've really marketed, these are bespoke treatments. We genuinely know you. If someone randomly calls us, myself and my staff, we know our patients. We don't have to quickly take a pause and look at your chart to remember your face. For the most part, we genuinely really do know our patients well. And that's something that we're very proud of. That's a value that we really work for all of our team to achieve. The people are the most important thing here.
That's incredible that you have a developer on staff that's able to build the CRM. I don't hear that every day.
We're lucky.
Yes. Awesome. That's really cool. Okay. Talk to me about treatment planning. It sounds like your patients are very loyal. They come to Skin Synthesis. They're staying for life. You're very big on giving transformation, desired outcome. They age every day. They still want to be confident every day. What does your consultation treatment plan look like? How do you capture patients for life?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that really hooks people is when it's about a relationship and it's about people. They feel that and they know that difference. In our follow-up, after any time you come to our office, we're literally going to follow up with you within a week or two. And we use Zenoti through Easy Connect. It's a patient chat to do that. And so patients know that, they expect that. And then after you've had something done, about a week or two later, it's the perfect time to check in. How are you doing? So that is the real retention fuel that we use, those touch points to check on people, because often they're ready for oh my God, this was amazing. What do you think is next? So once a year when people are coming in and they're having that good faith exam done by myself, that's where I'm really digging deep, building that treatment plan. We recently have just worked with Terry Ross, who's incredible. We attended 4S. That's a game changer. And we're working with Pinpoint now to create a really bespoke, branded treatment plan. What we'd been using previously was something within Zenoti, which was really not attractive. And we had pretty simplified kind of notepads that we were using for patients. This is going to be much more elevated. It's all going to be laid out. There's going to be lots of information based on individual treatment concern with what procedures are possible, where in the body we can treat, etc. So I'm really excited to shift to that. I think that will be elevated. And then patients will also have something that they can refer to at home. As you can imagine, that little notepad that we're using now, people lose that. It's not memorable. So they often are texting or when we see them in clinic, what do you think is next? So we're just excited to elevate our process, because I think as you grow and scale your business, you've got to grow and scale your processes, and they're constantly evolving. So we're in the in the process of kind of leveling up right now, and we're stoked about it.
Yeah, Terry's phenomenal. Her and her team are absolutely incredible. That's such a great conference. I'm so glad that she launched that. For the listeners, guys, if you haven't been, it's one that I really enjoy.
It's amazing.
Business. Yeah, it's a business central focused conference. Okay. And every conference has their own flair, right? Their own theme, their own, whatever they're doing. But Terry's is, hey, you're coming here for a business workshop, and you leave with some really good tangible assets. And so I would double click on that with you. And it sounds like, here's another point. You left that conference and you took action, which that's the other thing too, is I think as a provider or staff member going to these conferences, they can be overwhelming or maybe inferior to colleagues. I'm not sure, but go there with right? I'm here to learn. I'm literally closing my practice down, or I'm leaving my family. I'm flying across the country, wherever you're going. Go there with intention, know what you want to get out of it, know who you want to meet with beforehand, and go there with a plan, right? And so then you feel good about coming home with something tangible. Now, you did that. You went to a conference, came home with something tangible, and you're going to continue to enhance your SOPs. And as a net result, you and I both know, you being a business owner now longer than most, you know that by implementing these strategies, you're going to make more income and your patients are going to receive a better outcome. Yeah?
For sure. Absolutely. I totally agree. Any conference or educational offering, you got to go in with your own agenda, or else you can get really distracted. It can be very noisy with colleagues, with happy hours, with vendors, with, expos, that you can lose track of time. I agree. You got to have an agenda and a plan. And then when you're leaving, you should have your action plan of what do I want to accomplish in the next 30, 60, 90 days. But Terry's conference is incredible. Her sales training around the consultation process, how to really get that done and how to elevate it, how to unpack what people are really looking for is amazing. I think it's the first, I had an epiphany there. It was like, oh, what's a qualified buyer? Why did it take me 6 years to think about, is it a qualified buyer? And I think it's just the provider in me is always thinking about patient care and kind of treatments and intervention and the medicine. But if you're running a business, you also need to level up your business knowledge, and having qualified patients in the practice is really important, or else you're kind of spinning your wheels. And unfortunately, you are wasting your time and resources. So that was a huge win for me to really just recognize what is a qualified patient? How are we going to attract that person? Of course, we've thought about who's your avatar for years, but really thinking about, are they actually financially cleared? And how do you get that done in a way that is classy? How can you communicate that on the phone and when they're in the office, that it feels elevated and feels like it's ethical and has some integrity behind it?
Yes, absolutely. And that brings up like my next, touch point on the legal side. I know that you've been super intentional about evidence-based compliance. What legal foundations did you build early and then find yourself having to maybe build on top of as you continue to scale?
Yeah. It's funny. I think I teased you. We have a legal stack at our practice. So we've got a Washington State employment lawyer that we work with that we adore. So she helps us build our employee agreements. She's helped us with our employee handbook, anything internal about employment law. She's our go-to. She's also helped us build contracts for, in the event we wanted to help with a vascular occlusion in the area with other injectors, we should have some documentation and some consents for that. Because if you're helping someone else manage their emergency, there's some financial fallout that needs to be upfront. And then there's also some liability that needs to be teased out. So she's assisted with some of that. Then we have also worked with Friar Lovett. They're based out of New York. So they looked over some of our internal patient consents and some of our policies and procedures. They work primarily with plastic surgery offices, aesthetics, some cosmetic derms. So they are very niche within this field. We've worked with a copyright lawyer within that office. As we have published some of our policies and procedures, we sell those. And so we have a copyright lawyer there that we really adore. And then we also have worked with Bird Auto, who of course is behind AmSpa. And so we've utilized them and have purchased some of their protocols. I wasn't going to write my own protocol on how to wash my hands, for example. So I just bought AmSpa's. That's great. But if there's any protocols on actual procedures that we individually do, I wanted to write my own. And Friar Lovett was really handy to just kind of they're very bespoke. They'll go line by line through those with you. So we have all of those, three kind of lawyers, so to speak, those companies on retainer. One lawyer is not going to be specialized to meet all of your needs. As a growing business, if you want to really cover all your bases, we think that's super important.
Yeah, well said. Well said. I mean, this industry is, my gosh, there's a ton of scrutiny, right? It's still like it operates under a fragmented legal landscape, with growing scrutiny and consistent compliance. It's one of the top risks heading into, probably the end of 25, 26. I'm glad you brought that up because it's not like you just have a lawyer, right? And they cover everything. You need to have lawyer with expertise.
Right. Well, and then some of those lawyers end up interacting with our malpractice insurance because that needs to go hand in hand. You really need to make sure that your policies and procedures, what you've written down, is also covered by your carrier. So we have all that linked up. But oh my God, you know what I'm so excited about? The potential for med spas to be accredited. I'm stoked about the future. I think that's going to level up the field and we need it.
We do. I mean, no more of this, go to a course over a weekend, all of a sudden you're an injector, right? Like I have heard so many horror stories or even people wanting to try to get Botox themselves, for example, and inject it themselves. Okay. I have a local friend where I live and I was on this text thread and she was like, oh my gosh, I got access to, neurotoxin. I think I'm going to try it on myself. I'm like, do you know who I am? Do you know who I talk to every single day? And, it's kind of a joking thread, but I said, I don't think this is a good idea. And in any way, I convinced her not to do it is probably a really good thing. But what's the difference between her doing it or somebody that has 3 hours of study doing it, right? Not right. A whole lot. It's quite scary.
Yeah. I think we really need to, raise the standard, but also remember, this is medical. These are medical procedures. These are drugs going into the body. And this is not a beauty treatment. This is not the same as getting your hair or your nails done. There needs to be a higher level of standards that are met. And I think accreditation, it literally holds that bar and holds people accountable. And we need that.
Yeah, I value that. I thank you for doing that. That's so helpful. Yeah, I think we absolutely need to raise the standards. Very, very important. And, I think here's what I'm going to see happen is you're going to see you already do see it happening, but it's going to happen more of a separation of, hey, look, this provider is an expert.
Mm-hmm.
This one is more cutesy, poke, move on, and I think those will fade out eventually. I think there was a world for them as we were going through this rapid growth from 2020 to 2024. You're going to see that separation take place. And I'm with you on the accreditation. I think that's going to be super important. And that brings me up to my next question is I like to talk to providers that think of patients before profits.
Mm-hmm.
Profits come. Cash flow comes. You have the right process, the right tech, the right marketing, the right result, right? I'm a patient. I want to buy a result. And if I'm in your chair, please educate me, right? Educate me. Tell me no. You just said that. I can say no in aesthetics, right? And that's a powerful boundary. So how do you think of that? Do you think providers, new medical aesthetics practice owners, new providers get sidetracked on the vanity glam of income?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that needs to be tabled and it needs to be talked about patient care, medicine, clinic transformation, anti-aging.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that?
It's a great question. My role, I'm the owner of the practice. I'm the medical director. I'm the nurse practitioner and am the primary provider in my clinic right now as we scale. So I am the major revenue driver, but that money that I bring in is what helps me build my entire clinic. It's what helps me pay my staff. It's what helps me pay to train my staff. It helps buy the equipment that we want to level up our offerings for our patients. So do we make money? Yes, we do. But it's right now what I'm paying myself is, not much. I made more in the hospital, 100% for sure. Will I make more as I'm retiring? Yes, that's where it's going to pay me back is the back 9. So as I scale my business, I'm all in, and all in is financial right now too. And so what I pay myself is, I made a lot more, even as a bedside nurse, because I'm investing it all back into the practice. And I think the reality, what so many injectors might not realize unless they own their practice, is the consumable cost of aesthetics is so high. It's 50%, the markup. And then you've got the rent, you've got all the expenses, medical supplies with the tariffs. They were gone up substantially. And then you have your malpractice, like a million expenses, right? And I hope that people are taking good care of their team and building culture, which also costs you money, right? And so a healthy med spa hopefully has a gross profit of 25 to 30% of their gross, right? But that's like best case scenario. And so best case scenario, I'm not sure that it's possible to exceed about 30% if you're running a healthy business that has all of the things that you would need in check. So my business is definitely in that healthy space, but I'm reinvesting all that income into my team, into others. When you decide to build a business and you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to build a center of excellence. I think a lot of what you bring in those early years, we're 6 years in still, but 2 years in our major scale with a new location, a brand new build out, you're going to reinvest it into your team for years. That is the name of the game. If you really want to build something amazing with a strong team and you want to do it right, it's going to cost you. So what I like to do, because I think you were asking how do you separate it? I really focus on the medicine. I focus on treatments, taking care of patients. And then the next thing, that's my first priority. My second priority is my team. Teaching my team, mentoring my team, scaling my team. And I have someone else in the office that is crunching the numbers, that is looking at the bottom line, that is obsessed with our P&L, our balance sheet. I like to be aware of that. So once a month I sit down, I look at it, I'm educated, but I never want to be so financially focused that throughout the day, I'm like obsessing, well, if I can get them one more syringe, if we can just upsell them. Like I really want to stay pure in my integrity and the offerings and the recommendations I make to patients. And so I think it's a balance of being educated, understanding the numbers in your business, because I do think you need to know the numbers, but then you really need to have a healthy balance where you're delegating some of that financial business grind to someone, because otherwise it's such a slippery slope to lose yourself. And I think I see people losing themselves. How many dinners have I been to when injectors are talking about how much money they brought in that day? That's so weird. That's such weird behavior to think about that. But it happens. Instead of thinking about, did you have a great day? What was the best case you had today? That's not what it is. It's how much money did you make today? How many patients did you see today? And while a lot of people talk about community over competition, those are the conversations that are happening at the tables where we're talking about community. I really want to be at a different table. What paper did you read this month that changed your practice? What conferences are you going to? What was your toughest case, this month? How did you handle it? Maybe it was a really asymmetric phase, like whatever it is. I want to be talking about medicine, studies, science, bringing more of that. The money will come. And I think the more we focus on our why and stay really grounded, the more successful we become.
You're brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You're going to be here for a long time. I mean, it's the ball's in your court. You couldn't have said that any better. I've asked that question a few times, and the answers I get are interesting. A lot of people don't know their numbers. They don't understand what the net income looks like for most medical aesthetics practices, what it should be, what's healthy, what's unhealthy. Most don't. I've surveyed them. I've talked to them. I know these things. I mean, I've compiled the data into my own AI tool, and I can pull it anytime. And it's really interesting to look at. And to your point on the conversational topics, yeah, I've been in dinners and I've heard these conversations too. And I don't know if it's like bragging or if it's like, lack of confidence. Who knows? I don't know. But they should be talking about medicine, white papers, conferences, tools, tech, legal compliance. And it's not for everybody, but I think what you're saying, it just really hits home for me on somebody that understands patient care, being a consistent, present business owner, not being held up in the weeds of your financing, focus on your craft. You're not obsessed with the numbers every single day, although obviously we got to put points on the board because we got to pay everybody, right? But you really take this approach in terms of being pure.
Right. But I think that you have to think about that every day, because every day you have to think about, what is my moral compass?
Yeah.
And how's that dial moving today? How's that going? Because I am aware of our KPIs, my own and my team's daily, but I'm also aware of who came in. And if people didn't need a treatment, they didn't need a treatment. Or if something changed and the treatment plan needs to pivot, you need to reschedule somebody. All those things happen. But I think what that takes every day is you have to stay in love with aesthetic medicine. It requires daily passion for the work and the people and the patients that you're serving. And it requires keeping that compass on track every single day. You can know your numbers and you can have the KPI written down. I know what my daily report card, so to speak, looks like. I know what the businesses look like. But I don't let myself get distracted with the greater calling. But you have to obsess about that. That's a decision. And my team hears me talk about moral compass often. It is something that I find myself thinking about every single day. It's a choice.
Well, and it's just like you had me thinking about the conference I went to this week. And I flew in on a Friday. I talked Saturday, I left. But yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like, is this a fashion show or are we here to learn and educate?
Right.
And I think that, yeah, you have to be mindful of that, and even on your day-to-day, because when you leave the conferences or the networking environments, you do have the phone there that can also remind you and suck you back in. And so you have to be intentional. You have to, you have to stay grounded and continue moving forward. So, to build on that, what's next as you continue to scale, as you continue to analyze your business? What's next for Skin Synthesis, rooms, providers, treatments?
Yeah, good question. I thought about this a lot and I have so many ideas. That's what's interesting about entrepreneurs. I think we are kind of pie in the sky people. And so we have all these great ideas and I have tons of things that I'm so excited to do in the future. But I think the reality is you have to pace yourself and timing is everything. And so in this phase of the economy of my team, we're going to bring more team into Skin Synthesis. So we're scaling the people first. I'm looking to hire some more injectors. But in the meantime, I just want to keep focused on the things that we are doing right now because we're doing them so well. We'll scale the people. That's going to take us some time. We also are a training center. I teach vascular occlusion sim labs here. I train for Allergan. I speak nationally at different conferences as well. And I'm on different podcasts and webinars. So I'll still continue to do that. But I think at this stage of my business, I'm already doing so many things. The game is actually saying no, and it's boundaries. And putting my head down and just doing the daily grind is enough. And we just need some time with more people on our bus. And we just need to drive our bus. It's not about the latest, greatest, newest, more, better. I think we just need to keep doing the daily things really well.
Great point. I've studied a tremendous amount of entrepreneurs, and the ones that are the most successful, they focus. They do not get sidetracked on the shiny object. In aesthetics, there's a lot of shiny objects, right? Please do me a favor, continue to speak, continue to do the webinars, the podcasts. Your voice is extremely important, especially in elevating providers in terms of raising the bar. I think that's the biggest thing I've got out of this talk. Obviously, you have a great practice, amazing background. You don't, you do it, but it's enlightening to hear that you're so passionate about raising the bar and delivering an ultimate result to the patients, and then also helping providers as well. And so you're definitely admired in that category.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. But I have to say, how did I get here? With a lot of help. Right? I've been listening to your podcast for years. I listened to The Fierce Factor with Kaylee Lindholm. Terry Ross and her tribe has been incredible. Tiffany Hall, Before the Record. When people think about, well, how do I get there? How did you learn all these things? So all those podcasts are excellent. And then I've also worked with a variety of coaches. And there's been different coaches for different seasons, but you've got to pair yourself with people as you grow. This isn't like I did this alone. There's been a pretty amazing team behind me all along. And so I think that's the other thing that people need to recognize. Part of that investment into yourself is coaching, business development, tuning in day after day to all the podcasts, etc. It works. It helps.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you saying that. It's not easy to produce the show and have as many guests on and come up with all the content and collaborate and grab all the data. I really appreciate that. Oh, and thanks for tuning in and listening. I have a lot of people come up to me and say, "Hey, thank you for everything that you do on the podcast." And it's more of a business-centered entrepreneur podcast. And, our goal is to continue to help practice owners just grow, elevate, and scale, right? So I really, really appreciate you saying that. Some final thoughts here. I want to roll out this new type of ending, and you happen to be the one on the interview that's going to go through it with me.
Okay, let's go.
I'm calling the Skin Deep Rapid Fire. And if you had one procedure you'll never remove, what would that be?
Botox.
Easy answer. That was cool.
I love Botox. It's amazing every time. And I love giving people the best Botox they've ever had.
Perfect. All right. Biggest aesthetic myth.
Ooh, there's so many that one and done. That's not a thing. It's a journey. It's consistency. And it's going to be a pinch of everything. You need a multimodal treatment plan.
Love it. Love it. Totally agree. One piece of legal advice every new injector should hear.
Oh my God. Get a lawyer, talk to them often, and always look things up. And honestly, this is what I should have said. You can't trust anyone. You can't. So you go to these conferences, you listen to these podcasts. They're all fantastic. They've helped me tremendously, but you need to vet the information and make sure that it's applicable for your state.
Yes, very, very true. You cannot trust anybody. You need to do diligence. You need to look under the hood. Don't just sign up for something because so-and-so signed up for it. Do your own demos, do your own diligence, make sure it's right for your demographic, your practice, right? So I appreciate you saying that. What about the most underrated treatment category?
Ooh, underrated treatment category. I think routine facials, diamond glows. We have that in our practice, and I think it's underrated, being really faithful with basic facials and skincare.
I agree. In fact, I was at the conference I was just at. There was a group there, Casey and Cody from Tailored Aesthetics. They're huge.
They're powerhouses.
Yeah, you know them? They're
Yes.
such great people. Oh my gosh, I love them. They're huge on skincare. And I went to her talk. We ended up going to dinner, had some wonderful conversations. And I'm glad you brought that up because they're bringing it to life. And I think that, we're going to be seeing a lot more of them and educating that movement. Okay, I'll leave it at that. I know you're super busy. You got patients to see. You got a business to run.
Cameron, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you for everything that you do. It's an honor.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'll leave it at that, guys. So if anybody wants to find you, connect with you, where can they go?
I am on Instagram. Our business is Skin Synthesis, or I am jha.skinsynthesis. Or you can find us on our website, skinsynthesis.com.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Until next time, happy injecting.